Okay, so this is my electronic dice. Push the button here, showing the number 5, or a different random one would be now it's showing 4. Essentially, it is just 7 LED circuits that are each going to the digital inputs, and then also a button switch that is working through a resistor and also going to the digital input as well. Both sides are grounded and one side has power, the 3.3 volt to power the whole thing. So basic LED circuits. The code that I used was also pretty simple. Just identifying what each of the inputs or the pins are, stating that I need it to have a random number and what state. That state would be equaling 0. Setting all of the pins up to be outputs and just labeling them with their corresponding location on the breadboard. And just again that we're wanting it to be a random number. So if we continue, then we're just looking at what it wants it to do if each number is randomly selected, and then 5-second delay before we come to how each number should be lighting up. So kind of the basic and clearing it all. Now for me personally, this was a challenge. I honestly had to use a lot of code that I found on the internet because I was just struggling so hard with trying to get the circuit. So I actually tried it a couple of different times throughout the week, and ultimately I ended up going one by one with just a simple LED output and making sure that each light was working, because I couldn't figure out where the error was and why it wasn't lighting up between whether it was the code or whether it was my circuit. And so I actually ended up going and just running my own code to be able to light up each wire and make sure that I had the actual circuit and the lights connected the right way so that I knew that they would light up. So once I'd done that, I still hadn't got it working the correct way. I found a code online and I went ahead and copied that code in just to make sure that I had my code right and now I knew my LED circuit was set up the right way, and it still wasn't working. So that meant the only variable that I still wasn't completely sure of was going to be the button, the electronic switch. And so I looked at several diagrams trying to figure out what was going on and why it wasn't working. Initially, I realized I had the resistor plugged into the positive side and the other wire plugged into the positive side, so that wasn't completing the circuit. So I fixed that, and it still wasn't quite working. And it was a lot of research back and forth trying to figure out what was going on until I finally realized that I had my positive was over on this side of the board. So all of the LEDs lit up, but the button had no power to it. So once I switched it over to this side, I went back and looked at it. I realized that was the problem. And so went back and tweaked the code a little bit to make it my own, and was very happy that it finally worked the right way.